Hello, everyone. It's Michele Maher here, and today I'm joined with Linda Babulic. Thank you so much, Linda, for giving me your time to talk about what we've been dealing with and keeping a positive mindset while pivoting in our life and our businesses. Again, thank you, Linda. If you want to give us a few words about who you are and what you're all about.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me to come. I am a very zesty executive life coach, and I work primarily with women, but as soon as I say that, some man's going to call me and want to work with me, and I have worked with some men. And what I do is I work with women so they can really find what they want in their life and in their business. So they feel like they're in power and control, and they're choosing the life that they're living, as opposed to just falling into the life day after day and waking up in the middle of the night and saying, this isn't what I want in my life. So this is really getting clear with them on what it is they do want in their life. And then we link arms, we use different tools to create that strategic plan as a visual so they can see that every single thing that they're doing in their life and in their business is leading them to that core desire that they have.
Right. Okay. And so that I think a lot of people have taken this time to realize that what they were doing before isn't necessarily something that made them happy. Again, I know, the whole idea, wake up, get ready for work, get in the car, drive to work, go through your day, waiting for whatever your end time, if it's 5 o'clock or whatever, drive back home, rush around to get the dinner made for everybody. And then if you have kids, rushing off to whatever activities, and then go to bed and do the same thing over again the next day. And it becomes just, such a monotonous routine, and it's not, necessarily creating the meaningful life that you want to live.
Well, that's it, and it's so unconscious.
Yes. Just like, as we know, anytime if you're driving to, sometimes you might drive to work or anywhere you've driven all the time, and you get there and you think, how did I even get here? Because it was just your subconscious was taking you there.
Mm-hmm.
So as we were saying before we got on camera here, I started doing these interviews because I really felt that it was, of course, what we're going through, we've never been through before, and everything being shut down. There was a lot of the fear and negativity on social media and everything like that. And I just, there was such a loss of control at the beginning that I felt like I just wanted to get out there and help. And I knew that I know a lot of entrepreneurs that have so much to offer, and just wanted to create a safe space where we could be positive. So that's kind of why I started doing this. But what was your experience at the beginning? Were you here, or were you traveling, or anything like that?
Yeah, I was here, and we shut down on March the 12th, which was probably sooner than a lot of other households. But my daughter and my son-in-law both worked for the federal government of Canada, and they had, I think, more insight into this happening and going on than maybe others would have had. So they made it really clear that this was serious and we needed to shut down. Even before the government shut down, we did. And that's when they started getting our groceries for us. And they just live 4 doors away, so it's really handy. But it just meant taking on a bigger burden for them. It's balanced out now where we can help each other out in a different way. So what I found right at the beginning was a sense of relief. I do a lot of networking, and it was like, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to go out and have those pedestrian conversations that are meaningless and lead to nowhere. There are so many networking events that people don't know how to network properly. You get good ones, then it's fantastic. You have those juicy conversations. In fact, I wrote a whole program called powerful first impressions. And it's teaching people how to make a powerful first impression when you go networking. How do you hand a business card? You make yourself so appealing that someone begs for your business card. Not be just, I've seen people at networking events just papering the room with business cards. It's like, don't do that. So my program's 10 weeks long, and that's what it teaches you to do. I have to update it now for the online, because again, it's the same thing. How do you make a powerful first impression online? And you can.
Yes, and you can, exactly. But of course, it is different. And in some respects, in some respects, it is more difficult than when you're actually physically, beside somebody. At least that's my opinion.
Absolutely, because you've only got this up to deal with, where normally, you've got somebody who's taller, somebody who's shorter.
True,
the energy better when you're face to face. You can feel their aura, their soul. And in my belief, it's on the outside of your body, not the inside. So that's the first thing you meet. When you meet someone, you're meeting their soul entity first. That's why we have sometimes resistance to people from across the room. We've never even met them. Is because we can feel that soul energy and it's clashing. Or you have this attractiveness to someone and you go, wow, I just want to stand next to that person and feel their nice positive energy. So a little different online, but we still get a little bit of that. I agree with you. It's different.
Yes, yeah, it is. And I have been at many a networking event where people just come around with their business cards. And even where somebody has just kind of shoved it in at me when I'm talking to somebody else. And I've stopped and looked and stared at them because I just don't even understand that. What is the point? And everybody just either, well, most of the time people end up leaving it there. So that's even worse.
Well, let me tell you a funny story. I was at a conference in Montreal, would have been probably 2 years ago, because I was speaking at the conference, and it was break time. So I was speaking to someone exactly as you described, speaking to someone that was one of the vendors. She had a booth and I hadn't seen her in a couple of years. And so we were like catching up and everything. This woman walks up and she interrupts, gets better. She says, "Hi, I'm a geriatric nurse." Here's my card. And I looked at her and I said, "I'm good. I think I'm fine." Trying to play on the geriatric. And she said, no, well, maybe your parents. And I said, both my parents have passed. I'm good. And I looked around. She put her business card at everybody's seat at the table. And at the end of the day, they were all still there. How not to network, especially when you're a geriatric nurse.
Right. Yeah, no, I couldn't, I was at a large event when this happened too, and I just didn't even understand. And it was so clear. You could see that nobody was possibly going to pay attention to this person. So yeah, it doesn't happen that often though. I do have to say, it's not as bad as that. Again, it depends on certain events, as you were saying, are better than others by far. And the ones that are like that, just throwing around the cards, are ones that I like to, I only go to maybe once and then I avoid it in the future.
And I think that's one of the big things with the pandemic. It's really having us focus on the true purpose of building relationship. Let's have that heart-to-heart connection. Not just, I'm not a lead. I'm someone I want you to connect with, because I'm curious by nature. Some people call it snoopy and nosy, but I like to call it curious. I'm really curious. I want to know about you. I want to know what you love. I want to know about your family. How did you end up making jewelry? Like, what on your journey got you to this? I'm fascinated by the stories of your life, especially women, I think, have very interesting stories, because none of us, I didn't land where I am today thinking, oh, I know, I'll write a #1 international bestseller. No way. That hadn't occurred to me 10 years ago. So I'm really fascinated by people. So I'm very happy to meet someone and to ask a lot of questions. Like, how did you get into the jewelry business? Being very fond of jewelry.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Well, you'd be very interested to know that I am a former accountant. I did accounting for derivatives and complex financial instruments for about just over 20 years. Well, not that specifically, because I started out doing audits and then working for the provincial government, supporting the trading floor where they issued the debt. So, but the last 12 years, I was down right at First Canadian Place at a bank doing, like I say, accounting for derivatives and complex financial instruments. So totally different than what I'm doing now, but it's always been my passion. And I started doing that when I was a teenager, and I didn't want to look the same as everyone else wearing a uniform in high school. So I started wearing a lot of jewelry. Then I didn't want the same jewelry as everyone else. So I just started making it, and I continued to do that through, through my years working in corporate. I used to wear jewelry being an accountant, and they used to look at me like I had two heads. It was really, I would get some pretty strange looks from people, like, because you're not supposed to, you're not supposed to look that way. And so really the whole corporate environment was not somewhere that I felt that I belonged.
Yeah.
Essentially. So, so fast forward to today, and now I'm doing what I feel is my real purpose. So, and making women look and feel amazing and confident and authentic. And I also, all of it's infused with Reiki healing energy too. So, yeah. So anyhow, going back to what you were saying before about women having stories, definitely there's so many out there, so many people I know who used to be in corporate doing something, much different, and have fallen into this, which is, and I think a lot of it is governed by what society told us we should be doing and how we should be following our life course. Go to high school, go to university, make sure you do that. I remember when I wanted to go to be a fashion designer at Ontario College of Art, it was like, you're not going to make any money. Yeah. You can't do that. You're not going to make money. There's no way. And now look at it. Look at now, people are making money on, millions of dollars doing videos on TikTok. So it's a totally different world than it used to be. There's none of that. You can't make any money. It's more important now to have, to be doing something that you are passionate about and creating that meaningful life.
Yeah. And we do fall into things like the person who made this necklace for me. She's an environmental engineer, a graduate engineer, and she was on mat leave and had always had a love, wanted to explore it, and that's what she ended up doing.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And again, I think that's another thing that women put other, we tend to put others' needs above ours and put others' needs first, and then coming back to figuring out what's important to us, which ties back.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a really big issue with clients. And I have a client interview before I work with anyone, and it's giving our power away. So we give our power, because nobody can take your power away. So when somebody says to you, I feel powerless when I'm with that person, it's just not going to happen, because you're giving them your power. We give our power to fear. We give our power away to what other people expect from us. And then we go back and we give fear a little bit more of our power. But then we wake up and we go, wait a minute, why am I feeling powerless? Because we've given it all away. And I have this great exercise that I give my clients, and I too practiced some Reiki, so it's that energy. If you picture all the places where you have given bits of power, your partner, your kids, your job, all of that, pretend you're a magnet, a human magnet, and just take it all back. just have it all come back to you. All your power just starts coming back. It's such a powerful feeling to be able to do that exercise, because you need to take your power back so that you can stand in your power, so that you're prepared to do what you need to do for you. Until then, if your cup's not full, you can't fill anybody else's. And we got that screwed up somewhere along the line.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that we can we can take that over to what we're going through and have been going through since March, when all of a sudden people felt like their power was taken away as things were shut down. And the fact, and that's why as we were talking, so many people were saying they were just waiting, saying when we get back to normal, when we get back to normal, which we know at this point in time, we're not going back to, and nor do we want to.
And I think the language was really important around this, because people keep saying it's crazy times. But the more we keep saying it's crazy, the more cray-cray we're going to have. It's unusual. I know I was talking to someone and she said, oh, I can't stand this being locked up. I was like, well, you're not locked up. You're living in a great country. There are no bombs falling on your head. Your fridge is full of food. So it's having that switch, and you can go to the store and buy more food. And it was that fear. We were giving our power to the fear. And then when you reframe it and go, yeah, I can go right out my front door right now, nothing's stopping me. And when we realize that a lockdown doesn't mean a lock up. I used to work for the Correctional Service of Canada. I worked in prisons. So I know what locked up means. Not the same at all. And in a lot of ways, it was so freeing, because there are a lot of people didn't get together for Easter, didn't get together for the annual picnic in the summer. And there's a lot of people that didn't want to do those things, but did them because they were out of obligation. Well, we always do it. I can't be the only one that doesn't show up in my family. But when things change, people are grateful. Yay, I don't have to go to that Thanksgiving dinner. So it's really interesting how we can really turn things around and make it feel good for us, to change the energy and to have that time of, like you said, peace, quiet, and just not even hearing airplanes. Now I feel like when I was little and there was an airport that came to the city I lived in, to Sudbury, and it was like, oh, there's a plane. It was a big deal. Well, now I feel the same way. I hear a plane and it's like, oh, there's a plane. I think there's like 1 or 2 flights a day. There's not much going on, but it's the nice, quiet time to see people out walking their dogs. It's just really amazing. It's got a lot of good things to be said for it.
Exactly, and that's so true. It's all about your perspective and how you look at things. And I have heard so many people talk about that language of being locked down, and even when we were even back in March, when we were all staying home and everything shut down and nothing was open, and we were told we only should go to the grocery store and medical appointments and whatever, we were still allowed to go outside. As much as you wanted to, you could go outside, you could go for a walk. It wasn't the same in some other countries. So, but people were still calling it a lockdown. And like you say too, and we're inside our home, food, technology, everybody had the technology to connect with others, and we have the internet. So like there was so much opportunity to learn as much as you wanted to as well. Anything that you wanted to learn that you might have put off saying you didn't have time to learn, well, there it was. You could be, learning, and then the time that we had to spend, with family, but also going back to what you were saying about the freeing. I could see that too, that perspective, because so much of what we do is out of obligation and what society tells us that we should be doing.
And then you realize that you don't have to. And it's like, why couldn't I do that before? Like a friend of mine just went through a divorce and she said, and I did such and such. And I said, why couldn't you do that when you were married? She said, it never occurred to me. Just never occurred to me that I could do that or buy this or whatever it was she'd done. I can't remember the details. But for me, I'm going to take the next few months to start writing well, I've already started, but to write my next book called Leading with Zest. And it's going to have a lot of these components in it because leadership has to start with yourself. You have to be leading yourself to the place that you want to be, to the feelings you want to have.
Right. True. Yeah. True. We are all leaders.
Absolutely.
No matter what. And so again, going back to the perspective, it's all about the choice and what we have, taken our power back and what we can control. And while there are aspects that we cannot control, there's so much that we can. And it all starts with looking at, taking time to be with ourselves and thinking about our values and what's important to you. And this has also given us the chance to, like you said, people have made the decisions wouldn't make the decision to not go to this event before and now had, the choice was made for them. And it's like, why didn't I think of that before? And I think we're going to see a lot of just like the whole corporate system and everybody coming home to work. Yeah. And before that, it was like, no, you can't work from home. You won't get the work done. It won't be efficient. It won't be effective, and on and on. And now we can see that just because things were done a certain way before doesn't mean that that's the best way to continue doing it.
Mm-hmm. One of my clients owns an insurance company. And she had to pivot to have everybody working at home. It took them a little while, like a few days, to get the computers up and going and to get because it has to be secure system. She works with insurance companies, with insurance and financial management. So their systems had to be completely secured. So it took them a couple of days to make sure that all that was in place. But she can tell when the staff signs on and when they sign off and what they do while they're on the computer. So it's all there. The monitoring is all well in place to make sure everything is secure. It's pretty good. It's nice to look out and see, cars in every driveway as opposed to watching all the cars go by. I don't particularly enjoy watching the empty buses go by.
No, right. Yeah, no, it's all, there's pros and cons to it all.
Yeah.
But just not having to do that commute in the morning to, which especially here in Toronto, it's like you're guaranteed an hour and you're going to be stressed. By the time you get to work, you will be stressed. And then add on any weather when we get to winter and the snow and everything. So from that perspective, some sort of balance, it would be nice to have some time in the office and some time at home. So who knows what we'll see coming out of this. But same with networking. Now that all the networking is online, we have the choice whether or not you want to go to a networking event and it's global too, right? We're all connected and we can connect with people all around the world just that much easier than we could before. Not that we couldn't before, because the technology was there, it just wasn't done. Mm-hmm. Again, it was the same thing once this happened and people figured out different ways. And some of the networking groups that have come online, I think, are going to continue having that option so that you can have it online or in person. And just think of when, there's a snowstorm.
Yeah.
We won't have to venture out into that and worry about that, how am I going to get there, how long it's going to take. And, you can just sit in your home and join in.
It does take a lot of stresses away to not have to do that, to not have to. I lived in the Barrie area for 17 years. I've just been back in Ottawa now for 6.5 years. So
Okay.
I know about that wretched highway and the traffic, and yeah, it's rather nice to be at home. You get an opportunity to make your house, to get around to doing those things, to make your house more comfortable, to make your house the way you wanted it. If you didn't have the time before to do it, or the inclination, now people are beautifying their spaces to make it more comfortable.
That true, that too, as well as people having to navigate with more than more than one person working from home. All of a sudden, maybe both spouses working from home, and then some kids. Sometimes some kids are doing only online schooling, so
Yeah.
you gotta have that space for everybody to work. And yeah, but it's also given us the chance to like, there's so many things that we might have taken for granted before too, which we realize that are important to us. And then we also, there's other things that we may never do again.
And people we may never see again. It's true. There's so much going on. I've got one sister that lives in BC, and my other sister's over 80 years old, and she lives 5.5 hours from me, and I won't be going to see her anytime soon. And neither one of them. It's going to be a little bit different, but we do our calls to connect. Yeah. We do video calls, and that's good. It's not the same as have a glass of wine together, but it's still fun.
No,
it's still fun. And we need to get our head around that it's going to be different. It's not going to be, the normal is not going to come back. And that's not always a bad thing.
Right. As we were talking before, some of the some of the normal before, we were always, it was like we glorified busy. And if you were busy, it's good, and nice and busy, but were you effective? Were you enjoying what you were doing? Or were you just rushing from place to place and never feeling that you ever got a chance to catch up?
Yeah, and I actually wrote a blog about that a few months ago called "Busyness is Almost a Disease These Days." Because it makes you feel important. Oh, I'm busy. I'm so busy. I'm crazy busy. I was like, well, maybe that's not quite as it appears to be. You don't have to be that crazy busy. Now, I know some government employees certainly work, because they were working 18-hour days to try to get all of the systems in place. My son-in-law is with the Canada Revenue Agency, and they've had to take on a whole lot of responsibility that they wasn't part of their mandate. So the mandate changed. So that meant a lot more hours, but it takes a while. It gets better. And we all have to do that. But it'll give us an opportunity to really take a look on, where do you want to spend your time? What gives you, if it doesn't give you energy, then it takes energy away. Where can we cut off those energy zappers, those energy vampires that we now have the choice? But what gives you energy? Does reading a good book give you energy? Does reading anything give you energy, rather than just being so mindless and unconscious of what we're putting into our mind, every word, every thought, every conversation? I think we need to protect our minds and be more cognizant of what you're putting in there. What beliefs are we putting in? What beliefs can we get rid of that no longer serve us?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Which is why it's also been very important to take this time to journal, meditation. I know a lot of people have taken up some meditation, journaling. There's all kinds of online, courses that you can take, and figuring out what you like, what you liked as a kid as well, that you just put off because it was you just put other things ahead of it. Again, we have the same 24 hours in the day. It's just how you chose to spend that time. And the technology that we have, this has also given, so many people have had to adopt technology where they didn't necessarily, so many people would say, I don't like
I'm not
technology,
techy.
blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And now, this is here to stay, the video meetings like this, but also looking at processes and the way we do things and what we can automate and what, how technology can help us to do some of the things that zap our energy, as you were saying, and take our energy away from us, and then spend our time in a more creative manner, rather than doing the mundane things.
And if we do that, then if we operate from a place of gratitude. I meditate every morning. It's the first thing that I do. And I journal. It's a journaling meditation. And one of the things that I do that the listeners may want to try to do is I list gratitudes, but the gratitudes are in 3 different categories. So 3 things I'm grateful for in my life. And since March, the first one's been health. every day, it's health. And then whatever other things are in my life. And the next 3 are 3 things I'm grateful for in my work. And the last 3, which is the most challenging I do this exercise with my clients too. Most challenging for most of my clients is 3 things you're grateful for about yourself. It's like, oh, what am I grateful for? What are you grateful for about yourself?
My determination, my resiliency, and my creativity.
There you go. See how easy that was? And if everybody does that, if you have those gratitude 9 times a day, like, look at you lit up just saying that. Your energy shifted by acknowledging those 3 things inside of yourself. So if we all do that, this is a perfect opportunity, particularly for women, to step into our leadership role and to make a difference in the world, to make the world a better place. And that can start by being grateful, by smiling, by sending out that positive energy. I mean, that's what Reiki is energy. But we can do that. We have so much power that we don't even realize it. If we're just doing gratitudes, that's standing in a place of love. And there's only 2 emotions in my mind. One is love, one is fear. And you can't be in both places at the same time.
Right. Yes, I've heard that so many times. And gratitude has been something that has come up in every single interview I think that I've done. Just talking about gratitude and the importance of it and how important it has been during this time. And the other thing that you touched on too is female leadership. And it's something that I think that that's a whole area that we need to see so much more in terms of female leadership. And it comes back to what you were saying about taking your power back.
I just had this conversation with someone, and it was about how different would this have been handled if it was women? Would nursing homes be run the way they're run? Would it have been a mess like that? And when you look around, certainly where we live, it was all women that were at the top working on this pandemic. It was the Minister of Health and all the other authorities were women standing in their power. It was a beautiful thing to see that they were the ones that were leading how to make good sense out of this, how to make the best decisions for the community, for the people involved. How are we going to handle this? And so we need to be stepping up into our own power. And in order to do that, we need to know what our power is.
And leading from a position of love.
Absolutely. There's no other way. That's going to be such a dominant feature in my book, Leading with Zest. You must do it from a position of love. And even one of the things that I work with my clients is discipline and dismissal of staff. It's like, don't do it from a place of anger. If you can fire somebody from a place of love and compassion, I've done it. They've come back to me and said, I was so grateful on the way you let me go and you changed my life. Had you not let me go, my life wouldn't be the way it is now. There's ways of doing it. It doesn't have to be a bitter battle. So it's coming from that place of love in everything we do, think, and say.
Right. Yeah. That's so important. And that's something that is so needed from a leadership point of view, and coming down to all levels. We need to, and that's where we see everybody coming together during this pandemic and such a sense of community. And if we just can keep that sense of community and the sense of love going as
And
we create whatever we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Linda, for giving me your time to talk about this. It's been a great conversation, and I'm going to put your information up underneath the interview when I put it up as well, and information on your book as well. And I guess look forward to this next book that you are working on whenever it comes out as well.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And bye for now, everyone.